Welcome to the R&R Show. Sit back and relax and enjoy the best little sports show ever. I'm your host, Michael Roope, and on the other side of this phone is my co-host, William Rumsey. Hello, William.
Who day?
All right. Well, William and I thought it'd be a good chance to get together with one of our most favorite times of the year, the big NFL draft. And this year's no different with the Bengals basically on the brink of winning a Super Bowl. We thought we'd talk a little bit about what the Bengals may do in this upcoming draft.
Yeah, we've been kind of in hibernation mode for the last 2 months since the Bengals did us fans a service and put some more protection in front of Joe, taking Orlando Brown off the free agent market. Now we're, I call it the season of hope, free agency and then the draft. It's been kind of odd the last couple of years. The Bengals pick late in the draft, so you really don't know who the hell is going to be there. A lot of folks are saying it's kind of a weak draft, that there's only 18 to 20 players that really probably have a first-round grade, whatever that means. It's kind of a top-heavy draft. So at 28, what the hell are the Bengals going to do? I mean, I think they have – you've heard a lot of positions they – will probably focus on and maybe address, but with the draft picking that late, you don't know.
Yeah, I've heard that, obviously the blue chippers, it's weak in that department, but they do say it is a deep draft where there's a lot of very serviceable players that will come out of this draft. And, and some of the spots that the Bengals are looking to build up is some of the spots they say are deep in this draft. Tight end in two of them. Now, with this first pick, William, there's a lot of speculations. A lot of people want to trade back. Do you think the Bengals could possibly make a move to trade up? And if they do, what are some of the players you think that they will maybe key on if some of these guys fall?
Well, there are teams, and I think there are teams in every draft that are looking to trade back, but it takes two to tango. So if you have a ton of teams willing to trade back, but is that the Bengals' MO to trade up? I don't feel that it is. And, to trade up, they're going to have to give up probably second round picks or third round picks or a first next year. I just don't think the Bengals should do something like that. I mean, if there's not a superstar there in waiting to give up a next year first or a second round, I just don't think that that's a good idea with the way the Bengals are and their cap situation. But I would say for a trade up, their right tackle situation's kind of a mess. They're maybe
like any of these tackles in this draft?
What'd you say?
Do you like any of these tackles in this draft?
I mean, there's a couple guys that they're talking. You had mentioned yesterday Skoronski from Northwestern. They're singing a lot of his praises, but are they saying he might be a guard? He's
the one lineman that I would make a play for if he fell. I just don't think he'll fall far enough for the Bengals to make a play.
At the beginning of the draft season, they were really talking this Darnell Wright out of Tennessee, potentially be the right tackle, but they think he's going to go way ahead of where the Bengals pick. So, offensive linemen, there's no way in hell we want them to reach for somebody. As Bengals fans, we know the Billy Prices, the Cedric Ogbuehi's, the Jake Fish. You don't want to, because the Bengals are in a position they took a guy last year, Dax Hill, in the first round that didn't really contribute last year. Now the Bengals are a very deep team. So I'm thoroughly confused, and maybe that's a good thing as to what the Bengals are going to address in the first round. I have no idea.
Yeah, if you look at all the mock drafts from the so-called experts out there, they're all over the board. You've got tight end, running back, tackle, a DB, a secondary guy. It's fascinating that the Bengals are at this point, and that's a good thing because there really isn't like a huge need per se. I think, the Bengals are in a spot. They're just going to let the draft come to them and take the best available player at one of those four spots.
Now, the history of the Bengals, I think the last time that they took a defensive lineman in the first round, if I'm not mistaken, was Justin Smith?
Yeah.
And that's been, 20-some years ago? Maybe?
Correct. Yeah.
So, but, pass rush, that was part of the reason that they lost that game in the AFC Championship. They couldn't get to Mahomes Obviously, the pass rush on the other side to beat our offensive line like a drum didn't help. So, I hear the guy from Pitt, Kalijah Cansey, maybe on their radar. They're saying Aaron Donald Light put some juice. I don't know. I've heard the name Emmanuel Forbes quite a bit with the Bengals. He's kind of he's my size as a DB, but he's intercepted a lot of passes. Say he's going to be solid. Then Deontay Banks, DB out of Maryland. They think, at the beginning of the draft season, I saw his name a lot. But now they think he'll be gone by the time the Bengals pick. So it's just been, the draft season, and you just don't know. There's a lot of smoke screens out there. So at 27 players going off the board before the Bengals pick, who the hell knows? What I do hope is that there is a quarterback that drops to where the Bengals pick, and maybe somebody wants to trade up to get that fifth-year option, trade back and get some picks.
Yeah, I don't see any those top three. I don't see them probably, falling, whether it's left. Now, Stroud is starting to drop like a lead balloon, but I just don't foresee him dropping far enough where the Bengals could, entertain, maybe moving that
I think
pick.
the guy that could is that Hendon Hooker.
Yeah.
Out of Tennessee is if he gets back, but are they going to trade up? Or is somebody going to trade a lot of picks for him?
Yeah, I mean that's where with the Bengals not having a GM is that's where it kind of gets really tough because it's like a convoluted mess, and you only have a few minutes in between these picks where you don't have a brain trust with the Bengals. It's just not one guy that's a go-to. So there's a little bit of confusion with that. I remember the Bengals trading for the number one pick, but that was again leading up to the draft when they got Big Daddy Wilkinson from Ohio State back in the day. But again, there was no GM, but that was like before the draft even started. So they were all talking about it amongst each other. So I just don't foresee any of that stuff really too much going on. Although they've made some trades in the draft, but those are few and far between.
So you've been kind of big on the tight end position for the Bengals. Explain to us or break down who you would like to see drop and be there for the Bengals.
Well, let's talk about what's the guy Kincaid from where's he from?
Utah. Dalton Kincaid from Utah.
Yeah. Now, I am a huge proponent of the Bengals taking him. Now, I'm going to play a little devil's advocate. If Mayer and Kincaid are both available for when the Bengals pick, and that's probably a long shot, but some of the drafts are having them drop that far. Who would I want and why? Yeah. I would want Kincaid because Kincaid is basically a Travis Kelce prototype. If we want more of the safer plotter, I compared Michael Mayer to the Jason Witten type. He's reliable. He'll make his catches. He'll be where he needs to be. But what do we want as Bengal fans? Do we want a Travis Kelce or a Jason Witten?
Well, Jason Witten's probably a Hall of Famer, right?
He is. I guarantee he'll make it at some point. He'll get in there.
Well, but to your point, I think Travis Kelce, just as much as Patrick Mahomes, has been responsible for the two Chiefs Super Bowl wins. Agreed. So, and Witten, I don't think he ever took Tony Romo to the promised land. So I agree with you. I mean, Kincaid, if he's there, I've not watched. You've watched tape on him, which hats off to you. I've not watched a lot of tape on Kincaid, but I trust your judgment. And if you're saying he's a Travis Kelce, hey, I've said a bunch of times that if you look at the Super Bowl winners, or just let's look at the last 10 years, you look at Brady, you look at Mahomes, they had freaks at the tight end position with Rob Gronkowski and Travis Kelce. Let's get Joey B, that freak of nature out there that is a matchup nightmare for defenses.
Yeah, and to your point, here's kind of my logic on taking Kincaid is because there's no guarantee we're going to be able to sign Higgins, re-sign him. So Joe's going to need playmakers opposite of Chase. Now, where that's going to come from, here's a good opportunity to get one of those guys in Kincaid. Now, Mayer, he'll be good and solid, but he is not going to be a dynamic playmaker. He'll be
Mhm.
very good, very solid, but I want somebody that's going to make those defensive coordinators stay up late at night. And I think Kincaid checks all those boxes.
Yeah, my as draft season has like my pull for Mayor is essentially that he, when they interview him, he's like, I want to be a Bengal. He
Yeah.
grew up in the Cincinnati area. He seems to be a solid, just loves football. And that's kind of been the Bengals' MO for the last couple of years, taking captains of the football team, just guys with high character. And I just feel like he fits that mold. But if he's
There's
not as
not
athletic,
that pick. Let's get
for
that out. I
sure.
mean, wrong with that pick, but
I don't think
it
he'll be there. I don't think either one will be there.
you don't.
No.
So in that case, let's just say both of those guys are gone. Then I say we wait on the tight end position because it's a deep tight end position. We can get somebody in the draft. Then where would you go? What? Let me ask you this. Let's just play devil's advocate. I think the Bijan Robinson will be gone by the time Bengals
Okay.
get there. But what
Okay.
about Gibbs, Jameer Gibbs?
I like that. I
Oh,
mean, he adds a wrinkle to the passing game. He's dynamic as a runner. The Bengals need juice at the running back position. Let's just call let's call a spade for all the arguments and bullshit you see about Mixon, whether he's worth the money, are they going to cut him or whatever. We all saw it last year. I mean, Pirine, we're going to miss Pirine, but Mixon just struggled last year. And I'm not saying he can't get it back, but I just think they need more juice,
yeah,
regardless.
1,000%. I will tell you right now, Gibbs is Eckler 2.0. I mean, here was the problem with Mixon, and we've talked about this off camera. When the Bengals are have all these dynamic playmakers, going downfield, there should be lots of running lanes for these running backs when they do these dump offs. And Mixon wasn't doing anything with it. And with Gibbs, I'm telling you, that guy will absolutely crush defenses. You want to talk about 15, 20-yard gashes on little dump off passes to the running back? He will give it to us. And that's why I'm a huge proponent. If we don't get Gibbs, another guy I would like for us to watch out for is Tajay Spears. Keep that name under your hat. Those two guys definitely pass catching Eckler 2.0s.
I saw a guy, is he from UCLA, Zach Charbonnet? His
Charbonnet.
name has been mentioned to the Bengals
Yep.
quite a bit. But the one
Now
thing
he's
that
more of a plotter, though. He's more of a little bit of he's a three. He has a three down skill set, but he isn't. If you're looking for maybe a complimentary, speed demon like Eckler that catches passes,
Mhm.
he can do that, and he's more of a three down back, but just a little less juice.
Okay. Now, one thing that I think did affect, and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, Mixon last year, the line for the first 4 weeks was in shambles.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
then they kind of changed up their running game. They went to that shotgun formation. Mixon seemed to do better in that. So, one thing that we don't know, I mean, it's in the scenes, but behind the scenes, we don't know the conversations, is Jonah Williams, the right tackle.
Yep.
Because if the line comes, I feel like you and I have been talking about the Bengals offensive line since we were born.
But I think here we're at the very cusp of
I
it
think
being.
so too. Yeah. Because I think, like you had mentioned yesterday about Kappa and Ted Karras, and now we've got Orlando Brown, Volson. Some people say he wasn't that great last year. Will he improve? Second year, more than likely he's going to improve. But
It's going to be more stable because he's got actually a legitimate tackle that he'll be boxed.
Yes, but he hasn't played with him yet.
It'll be all right.
No, but it's going to take a little bit of time. And then, so the right tackle position, what is Jonah Williams saying? I saw a picture that they had online that he's working out, getting back into the flow of things. So are they going to trade him because he demanded a trade? But we don't know what the conversations are going. So maybe they do that first round if some guy drops that they think is potentially, if they don't see any other guys that stand out, will they address the offensive line again?
And they very well may do that. And again, we don't know these conversations. We don't know if the buy-in. I think there was a heart-to-heart with Jonah saying, "Listen, you are not a left tackle. Nobody is going to pay you the kind of money that you're wanting at left tackle. You might as well figure out that you're going to need to be a right tackle to stay in this league for a long time." Maybe he took that to heart. We don't know where his head's at, but if the Bengals don't think his head's in the right game, absolutely try to deal him, and then obviously get a tackle. Now we have Lyle Collins still in the background that we don't know what's going to go on with him. Now, if he's wanting to do maybe a pay cut and stick around and just be a top level reserve, hey, I'm all for that. I mean, we could use as many reserves as possible, and he would be actually unbelievable. Now, whether he would accept that role, I don't know.
Yeah. So my question to you would be, okay, if Bijan's gone and you've got a choice of Gibbs or, the third or fourth tackle taken off the board, where if you take the tackle, then you get Tyjae Spears in the second or the third round, what would you rather have?
Well, in a perfect world, I would probably, if I could get Kincaid in the first, I would.
Okay. So that's your guy. Like in the first, Kincaid is your guy.
I would. Well, and that's just meaning that those blue chippers like Bijan Robinson or Skoronski, none of those guys are going to fall. Let's face it.
Right.
That would be just a dream to have one of them guys. But if not, I say Kincaid. I would love to have Kincaid. Gibbs won't be there by the time they make that second pick, but I believe Spears would be.
Okay.
I would be very pleased. And then you are literally set up. I mean, this could be the most prolific offense we're looking at ever.
So we're going weapons. You want two weapons.
I love
like
it.
it.
Yeah.
I like it.
And then what I would say is hopefully Jonah's on board. You could take another project if you want, like, adding a third or fourth and see. Sometimes those guys just need a little bit of seasoning and, maturity to be up to snuff. But then what do you do, obviously, with Mixon and Lyle Collins? Hey, I would they're both going to have to take a pay cut.
Yeah.
If they don't pay cut, get rid of them, because we can allocate those resources, because there's still plenty of guys out there that will fit the bill of filler placements till we draft somebody. Because I mean, there's plenty of free agents still out there that the Bengals can help plug some holes.
I think, with the draft last year, they focused heavily on defense. They didn't take any weapons last year. I think they're going to come away with a couple weapons in this draft. They have to. They have to.
Yeah, and I say this too. Irv Smith, tight ends, they usually do not flourish in that first season because it takes a while, because it's just a different animal when you get to the NFL. And with Irv Smith as a placeholder, and Bengal fans should be very excited about Irv Smith, because Irv Smith was a breakout about 3 years ago before he got hurt. And I think he's pretty healthy right now. And I think the Bengal fans are going to be very pleased with what we get out of him. It's going to be Hayden Hurst all over again. He's going to be a difference maker.
Yeah. And I've read a lot about the Bengals. What they do is they tend to draft what they know they're going to need a year ahead of time.
Yep.
So like Dax Hill, they took Dax Hill to replace Jesse Bates. So do they take somebody to replace Boyd or Higgins?
Yeah, they're going to need to. But here's my thought, like on the receiving. You can get some diamonds in the rough in those third, fourth, fifth rounds. I mean, we see it consistently, and the Bengals have been drafting pretty well, and with what they're looking for. And let's face it, Joey B's going to make any receiver look good. Hell, he's making what's his face look good. That we have
Taylor.
Irwin.
I think that the really super dynamic receivers they're typically taken within the first two rounds.
They are. You can find the Tyler Boyds of the world anywhere throughout there. He's as good as gone after next year.
Oh, you're anxious to cut TB.
I have been. Well, I just think we can that money elsewhere. I just think that contract mixing Lyle Collins, get him off the books. Let's get Joey B paid. Let's get Chase paid, and keep this thing moving. Higgins is going to be the big question mark. I'm not sure how or what we're going to do.
So we've talked about. I mean, what are your thoughts about them not having any of those guys under contract yet? They don't have Higgins. They don't have Logan Wilson, and then the big boy. They don't have Joey B under a new contract yet. That surprises me a little.
Yeah, I mean, am I worried? No. Am I a little disappointed it hasn't happened? I think they were wanting to see how all these other contracts play out.
Yeah.
They're going to make Joe feel like he's loved and wanted. That there's no doubt about that. It's just it's going to be how Joe wants to structure it, because Joe's a smart guy. He realizes, he probably sees the Tom Brady model. You're going to have to have some leniency in some places in order to field the team that he wants. Now, he's gonna, if he wants his boy Chase paid, and then those two are getting paid regardless. Now, where his money's going to come into play is whether we have enough meat on the bone left for T.
Higgins.
I just don't want to tie up a enormous amount of our cap for three people. I
can't imagine. I mean, it's never been. I can't think of the NFL and that kind of approach has been done with any other teams. I just can't think of it right off the top of my head. But I can't imagine that it's going to be super successful.
Yeah, no, it is. Well, here's the thing too. I mean, those caps always get adjusted yearly. The new cap numbers always go up, so there's going to be wiggle room. But we just need to get this guy under contract, make him happy, let him feel the love, let Chase feel the love. Those two, as long as those two are in place on offense, all the other things open up, because you have to pay so much attention to Chase. So, and Burrow's going to make the reads.
I love T. Higgins though, man. I think he's great. I just don't know. It just depends on where his head's at with what he wants in a contract as well.
Let me ask you this, and they always say it on TV, and that they're like, "Oh, Higgins is a number one in most places." Do you feel like he's a number one?
He's a one and a half.
I don't feel like he's a number one. He just doesn't have that break.
He doesn't have extra gear.
Yeah, he doesn't have the breakaway speed, and you got to have that to be a number one. Is he the top number two? Absolutely. Yeah. I just don't. You can't pay him that number one money. If he's wanting the number one money, I just think we have to. There's just no way.
What would Bengal Nation do if they pulled a T. Higgins trade off draft night?
Well, I think our heads would explode a little. But I just think the Bengals for this year, they know this is the year. This is the year. We've parted the sea. This is the year right here. We have all the pieces in place. The one bugaboo we've always been talking about is the tackle. We got one of the premier left tackles in the game. This is the year. I'm telling you, this is the year. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I'm interested to see if we get one of those running backs. I'm telling you, if we get a dynamic, like speedy little, like Eckler type, dude, this offense will not be able to be stopped.
I agree.
It won't. If we end up getting Gibbs or Spears, my head will explode.
Oh, so I think that, I'll just give my prediction, and I don't know who it's going to be, but I think that they're going to take a DB. I think they'll take a cornerback. That's
we even talked about it, and that's where I knew you were going to go there.
The history of the Bengals picking later in the draft, that's what they take. They take cornerbacks.
I don't like that. We've already taken the top two picks last year in DBs. I don't want to do it again.
I agree.
But that being said, I still think there's some serviceable people on the free agent market. And all that stuff will start to pan out after the draft, because, all right, here's who we've got. They get him in for the introductory meeting. They let him do some of the stuff and schemes that Louis A will do. If he doesn't feel comfortable, then that's when we're going to have to pluck, what we need. And there's going to be some cuts too. I mean, we have not by any means seen the end of the cuts.
Yeah.
So it'll all come to fruition. I mean, I trust the Bengals plan. I mean, they know what they're doing. Obviously, we've gotten to this point. I'm excited to see. Gun to the head. What do I think? I think if one of those two tight ends, Mayer or Kincaid, fall, we're going to take them. One of them.
I hope that's what happens.
Yeah.
I hope it's either Mayer, Kincaid, or pipe dream Bijan Robinson, but he's not going to be there, or Gibbs.
Yeah.
I think get some juice for the offense.
Got Gibbs, I would be beyond. Hey, and send a message to Mixon. Now here, you take the pay cut or get out. Yeah. I mean that's now. Let me ask you this about that. What if that what's his name, like Daiwan Jones or something like that for Ohio State?
He's been dropping like a lead balloon.
Yeah, he's more just a freak athlete looking guy. But
yeah.
I don't.
Well,
think
he's built like Orlando Brown, and just for some reason, I feel like. Whenever that starts happening, when guys start there's something that somebody's found out.
Yeah.
And I know one thing, he did like one rep at the Senior Bowl, like 1 day practice, and then quit, didn't do anything at the combine, and then didn't do anything at the pro day. Basically, he's saying that you guys here, look at my tape. And I respect that a little bit.
Wait, 1 day at the combine, was it impressive?
Yeah. Yeah, it was very impressive.
And that's what and you know what? It's kind of like a little cat mouse game. Okay, I showed you I dominate. That's all you need to see.
But he may be there in the second round for him.
Now that would be. Let's just play once again devil's advocate. If he's there in the second, and let's just say Gibbs is gone, but Spears is still there, what do we do?
So, all right. So who's taken in the first round?
Let's just say they take their tight end in the first.
Tight end in the first.
What if they get Mayer or Kincaid? Let's say that Jones from Ohio State fall. I don't think he would fall all the way that deep in the second, but if he does, would you take? And let's just say Jahmyr Gibbs is gone, so there's Tajay Spears and Jones.
I don't know. I trust the Bengals to make the right decision.
I'd probably take Jones.
Yeah,
we can protect Joe.
I know. Yeah, I mean, when you say it like that, give us lottery tickets, pluck guys, and hopefully a couple of them pan out.
Get a running back if we like anywhere. You have a good line, you can make any running back look good. I promise you that.
Yes and no. Yes and no, because I just think there are some guys that are just more dynamic in the open field.
True. Yeah,
I just keep going back to that play. I shit you not, that play. Mixon caught a pass over on the right-hand side against the Chiefs, and he had some room to run, and he got like a 3 or 4 yard gain, and it's most running backs, a dynamic running back, it would have been 8 and 10 yard. The first DB hit him, and he just dropped. I was like,
I promise you, that's what Gibbs and Spears will give you.
Right.
That yards goes to 20, 25, and that's what and they said it all year long. With the Bengals receivers going deep, there's a ton of room in between there. Dump it off to the running back and let him work. Mixon wasn't working. Let's let one of these speedy, shifty guys eat. Let's do it. All right. Well, listen, William, Thursday can't get here quick enough. Obviously,
I'm ready.
Days, and we're going to treat our fans to another episode over the weekend if you're up for it.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys over the weekend, and we'll discuss, obviously, at that point, the Bengals' first, second, and third round picks. Who day?